The Florida community of mindfulness is happy to make these talks available to you. If you find this talk to be a benefit, please consider making a donation to support us. You'll find a donation button on the Talks section of our website, floridamindfulness.org. Thank you, and may you be happy and free of suffering.
Before I begin the formal Dharma talk this morning, just want to make sure that if anyone is new or old but has any questions about the practices that we did this morning, the practice of sitting and walking meditation, the practice of mindfulness, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the breath, how to work with distraction, thoughts. If anything about the practice is not clear, please, or confusing, please feel free to ask a question. Yes. Yeah, karma biting is very essential to the Buddhist meditative path. Basically, when we talk about, again, the Buddhist path is an eightfold path. It has various aspects. But key, and I think unique about Buddhism, is the centrality of meditation. Now, obviously, meditation's a word that there are endless meditative traditions in America now. So just the fact that somebody says, well, I do meditation, I don't know. To me, that doesn't mean anything. I always ask them, well, what do you actually do? Because some people, they say, I do meditation. And you ask them what they do, well, they say, I get in a hot bath, and I light some aromatic candles, and I put on some kind of new agey music, and I chill out. Which is again, that's fine, but I wouldn't call that meditation. In this sense, okay? So I think it's important that we define our terms because they are meaningful. So in Buddhism, the path of meditation is primarily the path of knowing your own mind, you see. Since the basis of all emotionality, the basis of all mind states, positive and negative, wholesome and unwholesome, lies within the mind, it is the mind that needs to be known and the mind that needs to be healed and transformed. That is the essential, really key part of the path. There are many other parts of the path, but that's really key. So in the Buddhist meditative tradition, one begins with sort of what we did today, which is calm abiding, which really means training the mind to abide in calmness. Having a calm, tranquil, peaceful mind. Because without that kind of stability of mind and some clarity of mind, it's very hard to really go any deeper in terms of the introspective, because the mind, it's not stable. It's always distracted, it's always up and down, it's always back and forth. So without some capacity to have a fundamental, calmness. Now, this is not a calmness that comes from repressing or tamping down or controlling. This comes from a calmness that has learned to kind of let things be, let things go. That's why in the meditation this morning I said, don't struggle with your thoughts. Thoughts, just let them come and go. Right? So calm abiding is this essential aspect of Buddhist meditation. The other part is called insight, really developing some understanding about how things really are. But without a calm, stable mind, it's very difficult to even benefit from any insights one gets because there's no ground to hold them. Okay? So what we were doing this morning was calm abiding meditation. And then there are many different forms of it. With an object, without an object, formless, there are many different ways of approaching it. Any other questions just about the practice we did this morning? Good. So, for those who've been coming, in June we had several retreats, one up in Southern Dharma, up near Asheville, and then we went with some people, did solitary retreats for 10 days in Southern Colorado, and I was sharing, and other people have shared a little bit about, in our three paths within our community, the mindful living path, the Dharma path, the wisdom path. These retreats were kind of focusing on teachings and practices that we find in the wisdom path. So continuing that, just even though I know many people here may not be practicing the wisdom path, it's sort of good to get a sense of what this unfolding is about. So this is an interesting little text called 11 Pieces of Important Advice Not to be Rejected. And it was written by a great practitioner called Gampopa. Gampopa was Tibetan. He lived in the 12th century, really the 1100s, so he's a good 1,000 years from us, more or less. And yet I think because the human mind and the human condition, even outwardly circumstances are very different, but the fundamental characteristics of the mind and the challenges of the mind in terms of healing and transformation really haven't changed that much from 1,000 years ago. Gampopa, just very quickly, he was a physician. He was married, he had children, and then through some kind of epidemic or something, his wife and children died. So sort of very traditional, sort of acknowledging the impermanence of kind of ordinary worldly life. He decided that he would become a monk, kind of leave worldly life and lead activities, and became a monk. He was a great monk, and he studied both traditional Buddhism as well. He studied with the great yogi by the name of Milarepa, and so Gampopa became really the really main disciple of Milarepa, and one of the great lineages within Tibetan Buddhism traces their ancestry back to Gampopa. So we obviously won't do all 11 today. Let me, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'll just read you some of them just to give a flavor of what they say. Don't reject, first one, don't reject compassion since it is the basis for helping others. Don't reject experiences since they are the natural radiance of your mind. Don't reject thoughts, since they are the play of your innate nature. Don't reject disturbing emotions, since they are the reminders of wisdom. Don't reject sense pleasures, since they are the water and fertilizer for experience and realization. Don't reject sickness and suffering, since they are your spiritual friends. Don't reject enemies and obstructors, since they are the inspiration for realizing your basic nature. Okay? Now, why are these kinds of teachings considered at the level of the wisdom path? Because at the ordinary path, everything he kind of talked about rejecting are things that we want to reject, right? I'll separate compassion out because that's a little more interesting. But he says, don't reject experiences. But we do. We want certain experiences and we don't want others. Certain experiences arise, we don't want them, whether they're experiences outwardly or experiences inwardly. I don't want this. I don't want to have this experience. I don't have to deal with this, right? But I want these. So, we are always, there's a lot of experiences that we want to reject, we don't want to have. Don't reject thoughts. If there's one thing I think that unites all new meditators is what? We want to get rid of our thoughts. We reject our thoughts. Don't reject disturbing emotions. What? Right? I mean, what are they called? They're called disturbing emotions. Right, I want to get rid of all disturbing emotions and have only ones that are good emotions, right? I want to reject anything that disturbing. Don't reject sense pleasures, right? So many people think, oh, I have to reject the world of the senses because they draw me in to disturbing kinds of experiences. Don't reject sickness and suffering. There are spiritual friends, right? How many people look at sickness and suffering as their spiritual friends? Friends is what? Somebody you like, somebody you hold close, right? Somebody, when you see your friends, you're happy to see them. Don't reject enemies and obstructors, since they are the inspiration for realizing your basic nature. Okay, so can you see? He's saying things that almost directly contradict kind of ordinary practice, right? Now, please don't take this as a license to just go out and have a good time and do whatever you want, because that's what got us here. So there's a certain kind of understanding that underlies these kinds of teachings. And again, even if we're not there yet, many of us might say that, please pay attention. So he begins, don't reject compassion since it's the basis for helping others. So there's a real danger, right? Not a real danger, but something very obvious. And again, he was primarily writing for people who were meditating, right? These were his audience at that time was very much people who were very devoted to practice and the meditative wisdom path. So it's very, if one is devoting oneself to meditation, to really introspection, to work, there could be people here, I'm working on myself, right? And so we're doing a lot of meditation, we're doing a lot of study, we're doing a lot of self-work, right? And compassion means what? See, compassion means, it's not empathy, it's beyond empathy. It's not about, I am aware of people's suffering. Compassion in Buddhism, karuna, means I want to free people from their suffering. Right? It is the basis for helping others. See, many people want to help others, because they think they're duty bound to do it. They think, they want to look good. They think it's the right thing to do. There's lots of reasons that people outwardly helping others. But he says the basis of helping others is compassion. We want to free people from their suffering. Now, why is that so important? Because if I'm not in touch with this deep desire to free people from their sufferings, then the danger is I could only be concerned about who? Me. And certainly the meditative path, the path of study and practice, can be very liberating for oneself, healing and transforming oneself. But if we forget the profound interconnection we have all beings, none of us came into this world alone. We were birthed. We had a mother and a father. We might have had sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and cousins and neighbors and friends and people we work with. There's a whole network of relationships, right? And it just goes on and on and on and on. People, animals, that we are interconnected with. And if we think somehow that we can, by ourselves, liberate ourselves without wanting to bring that same healing and transformation to others, not only would it be ultimately selfish, just focused on oneself, but also, this is our great dilemma in this world, that we're all interconnected, right? We're living at a time where people want to disconnect, right? We want to disconnect from people that we don't agree with. We want to disconnect from people who see things differently than us. We want to disconnect with people of different political, a different religion or different, right? That's disconnection. But the problem is we're connected. We live in the same world. Our actions affect each other. So where there's really ultimately no way to disconnect, the answer is to connect and help and transform and heal, right? Other people, ourselves, other people. So that compassion becomes, even if you're in a stage where you're really very introspective and working on yourself to do your own healing and transformation, it's all in the service of developing the abilities and capacities to really be there to help others. It feels good to not be so self-centered, doesn't it? And to care about others, help others. Now, the second one, he says, don't reject experiences, since they are the natural radiance of your mind. So this is kind of getting deep, but we'll try to keep it simple. Babies, young children, all of us at one point, our minds are very open, right? A child is open to every experience, aren't they? Their eyes are open and they go through the world looking around, and whatever happens, happens, right? Good, bad, and different. They're very open to experiences. They don't pick and choose. They don't judge. Life unfolds, and life unfolds by experiences. But over time, years, decades, for all kinds of reasons, we lose that kind of openness to experience, right? We want certain experiences, and we don't want other experiences. We call some experiences good experiences. We call some experiences bad experiences. Some experiences wanted experiences, some experiences unwanted, right? But all that categorization and judgment is all being projected by our minds onto reality. Are you with me? Okay. All that's really happening in life, from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed, and even while we sleep, is what? We are having experiences. Is that not true? Just nod your head. Just in a very simple way, that's all that's happening. From the moment we get up to the moment we get bed, no matter where we are, no matter who we are, wherever we're going, all we're having is moment to moment, we're having experiences. Right? Our eyes are open, our ears, and our mind is quite capable of absorbing and dealing with experiences. But this one who judges, this one who goes good, bad, wanted, unwanted, is then the one that creates all kinds of what? Dissonance. Right? Because if we're worried that about some experience might happen to us, we get anxious. We get scared. Right? Because why? Because we don't want that experience that we're contemplating to happen to us. Why do we get angry? Why do we get irritated? Because we're having an experience that we don't want to happen. Right? We don't want this experience to happen. We don't want this person to be saying or doing, We don't. So we get angry. Right? Or we get sad because another kind of experience is unfolding in a way that we didn't want to. We're disappointed. We're hurt. Right? But all that is coming from where? From our minds that we're projecting onto what? Experience. So he says, don't reject experiences. Okay. Be open and work with whatever is arising. Don't be scared. Don't be disappointed. Don't be angry. Whatever is happening is happening. Just learn to deal with it in an intelligent, wise, compassionate way. See, that's where our energy should be going. But we put so much energy into resisting experience, pushing back at life, pushing back at people, pushing back at ourselves. Many of us don't like what we're experiencing. Right? People sit down to meditation, they're not having a good experience. Right? Why aren't they having a good experience? Because whatever is happening, they're thinking shouldn't be happening. Right? So we do it all the time. Rather than going, yeah, this is what I'm experiencing. Can I just be present to this, open to this, and work with it? But instead we go off with all that other stuff, judging, evaluating, creating all kinds of emotionality within ourselves. I mean, it's not big drama, but little drama. Right? Because we don't want to have this experience. And we're doing it all day. It's not like we're just big acting out. All day long, we're just kind of not open to experience. Is that clear? We're always kind of trying to control, manipulate experiences, people, because we're not open. So don't reject experiences. Then he says, don't reject thoughts. And as I say, this is like, whew, for most people who meditate, it's all about what? Right? I mean, many people even come to meditation. Why? Because they want to, they don't like what they're thinking. Or they have too many thoughts. Or their thoughts are stressing them out. Right? Right? Now, don't reject your thoughts. Since they are the play of your innate nature. Well, I'll leave that aside for now. But just deal with that. Don't reject thought. Which again was basically the instructions you were given today in meditation, right? Don't reject your thoughts. Don't struggle with them. Don't fight with them. It is the nature of the thinking mind to do what? To think. Right? It's the nature of the fans to turn around and create some air. It's the nature of the air conditioning system to go on and off. Right? Sometimes you'll feel it, a little cool air against your skin. Just right? Coming from the air conditioner or the fan. Right? Sounds coming from the street. Thoughts arising in the mind. All the same. Sensations in the body. So, there's a part of our mind, part of our consciousness, that cognates, that thinks about things. Right? Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Right. Right. Very early on, this natural capacity of the mind to think is awakened in us. And it is, we are given words, right? And then we're given more words in our society. And then we go to school and we get more than just words, we get concepts, we get ideas, identities, and then we, depending on how far we go, we get more and more words and more thoughts and more conceptions and more ideas, and right? And so this mind, right, that we have and we continue to stimulate naturally what? Thinks. Right? And very little of our thinking, unfortunately, is directive. I mean, I would say probably 95% of our thinking is just happening. Right? You sit in meditation and what do you know? You're not even thinking about anything, but your mind keeps thinking. It keeps throwing up thoughts. Right? It has nothing to do with you. Right? I mean, every now and then we kind of use our capacity for thinking and logic and analysis to actually, in a directive way, use it as a capacity that we have that can be very helpful. But most of our thinking is just kind of random thoughts coming up. Thoughts passing about this, past, present, future, who knows, something. Don't reject them. That's just the way the mind is, the thinking mind. It thinks. If you start struggling with your thoughts, trying to repress them, trying to control them, trying to manipulate them, what happens? Anybody try that in their meditation? What happens? They win. And they don't win because they're the battle, because that's the nature of the thinking mind, to think. Again, now, to say not to reject them means don't get into that resistance, don't get into that aversion, don't get into that struggle. On the other hand, don't indulge them. Learn to just let them be, like experience. If you're just present to an experience, you just are present to it and you deal with it, whatever, or you don't deal with it, whatever, right? In terms of our thinking mind, if when you learn to develop some capacity to be self-aware, when you develop some capacity to be aware of your thoughts, then you're creating some spaciousness that allows the thoughts to just come and go. If they come and go, they don't bother you. Why do your thoughts bother you? Anybody bothered by their thoughts? Why do your thoughts bother you? Stop and just think about that. Why do your thoughts bother you? Because you're attached to them. Because you believe they're real things. Solid, real, important things. And yet, as I said, 95% of the thoughts that appear in your mind, you're not even planning to think. They just pop in your mind. And we grab onto them and we work them. And we ruminate and we obsess and we develop emotionality around them. But what if we didn't do that? And just like experiences, we just kind of let them be, let them come and go. How would that be? Isn't that a lot easier than struggling? Thoughts are not the enemy. It's our belief that they're real, solid things, and then our struggling with them. Wanting some, not wanting others. This is the drama that causes us problems. Don't reject disturbing emotions. Anybody have ever disturbing emotion? Yeah. So a disturbing emotion means an emotion that disturbs the calmness and clarity of the mind. Anger, resentment, fear, all those disturb the mind. Don't reject them means it's something very obvious. To know that you have a disturbing emotion, whatever it is, right? Anger, resentment, irritation, fear, anxiety, worry, sadness, hurt, despair. Whatever your disturbing emotion is, the reason you know that you have a disturbing emotion is because, this is very simple, because it has arisen. Isn't that true? Right? If it hadn't arisen in your mind, you wouldn't know you had one. I mean, this is kind of, am I speaking like a crazy man? But you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you have a disturbing emotion, it's because there's a disturbing emotion that has arisen in your mind, which means it is now it's present in your mind. Right? No, the point is, at that moment, when you're aware that a disturbing emotion has arisen in your mind or thought, what do? Do you reject it? Get out. Or is there another way of dealing with a disturbing emotion without letting it disturb you? Why do disturbing emotions disturb you? Just think about that for a moment. Why do disturbing emotions, or why do we call some emotions disturbing? They don't feel good. They disturb our desire to feel good, right? We want to feel good, they don't feel good. Which is interesting, isn't it? Why don't they feel good? Think about it for a moment. They don't feel good. What if we didn't have any idea about how we should feel? You see? And what if we just were present to an emotion when it arose, didn't grab onto it, didn't embroider it, didn't intensify it, just, yeah. There's an emotion that is present in my mind right now. And I'm just kind of present to it, experiencing it, not feeding it, not rejecting it, kind of giving it space. You see, I think most of us aren't even in touch with what a real emotion feels like, because we immediately, when they arise, we start manipulating them, or we get carried away by them. But we don't just stop and be present to what it feels like just to have this emotion in my mind. What would that be like, do you think? No story about it. We have, in the rainy season here, we have stormy clouds, stormy weather, dark clouds, heavy rain, right? Fairly consistently. Is the sky disturbed? Is space disturbed by these rainstorms? No. Clouds, the rain just passes through. And after they pass through, what happens? Blue sky. Right? The sky is not disturbed. It gives space to the storm. Allows it to pass through. Right? So there is another way that Gampopa is kind of encouraging us to deal with things that we want to transform within ourselves, but rather than always working it, as we do, always working it, pulling in some, pushing out others, rather than always doing that work all day, he's showing us a kind of it sounds easy, but it actually is a harder way, where we just using the tools of mindfulness and awareness and spaciousness in our own minds to allow things to arise and pass. Right? So, we're sitting in meditation, all of a sudden somebody drives down Nebraska Avenue, with their car blasting music, right? Everybody know what I'm talking about. So we're sitting here, meditating peacefully, and all of a sudden, something arises and we hear, now, if we go, start making up a story about that person, or start, making a story about the music and how disturbing it is, ruining my meditation, people like that should be locked up, there should be law, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? we are getting what? Disturbed, right? But all that was happening was there was a sound coming down the street, just a sound, right? Went by, gone, right? Right? Where is the disturbance? In our minds. Right? What if we just, sat there in mindful awareness, sound arises, sound passes, just barely a ripple. Is that clear? Think about how much during the day we let things disturb us. And we think that it's the person or the situation or the sound or whatever that's causing us to be disturbed. But the disturbance is where? Take a guess. The disturbance is arising in our own mind, right? Actually, the guy driving down the thing playing his music, he's happy. He's not disturbed. He's having a good time. Right? But we don't see it that way. Right? So Gampopa is giving very profound yet simple instructions how to be at ease with life. How to have, as was asked earlier, how to have a mind that dwells in calmness. Right? I mean, most sane people these days, if you said, would you like to have a peaceful mind, a tranquil mind, a mind that is basically calm and stable? Most people, not everybody, obviously, most people would say what? Yes, that'd be nice. Yeah. But we think the way we get the calm, tranquil, peaceful mind is by what? Controlling our minds, or else controlling the external world. Right? If I could just get the world to be just the way I want, right, then I'll be peaceful. I promise. Right? Or if I can just get my thoughts and everything under control, and I just have all the thoughts and the mind states and the emotional states that I want, then I'll be calm. I mean, that's the way we really think. And yet, both of those strategies only create suffering or just activity, just more. It just generates more stuff. The stuff we want to get rid of, we're just creating. We want a calm mind, but in our pursuit of calmness, we just agitate ourselves. If we want a calm mind, we have to calm down. We have to have a mind that abides in calmness. And if we don't, again, want to do it through a strategy of control and manipulation, then the only real strategy that works is the strategy of letting go and letting things be. I mean, that's what he's talking about when he says, don't reject, don't struggle, don't fight, don't resist. Again, this isn't the boss. So please understand also that this, a lot of times people go, whoa, letting go, peaceful, calm, don't resist. Right away people go, oh, he's talking about being passive, right? Just putting up with everything. Many people go, but hold on, aren't there things to be resisted in life? You see? So this is not about that. Please don't get confused. This is about the mind. You know, you can be active in the world, helping, changing all you want. The question is, what kind of mind are you doing it with? Is it a mind that is calm, that is peaceful, that is at ease, that has the capacity of responding to things with understanding or wisdom, intelligence, compassion, right? Or is it a disturbed mind, a mind that is filled with disturbing emotions and disturbing thoughts? Is that clear? So we're not talking about, many people, when they hear about, letting go and stop resisting, they go, ooh, no, I can't do that. Yes, you can. Because everything that you want to resist is already happening. Right? You're just playing a game like it shouldn't be happening. It's a mental game. But everything you want to resist is already happening. Right? Every situation in the world that you want to reject is already happening. Every person in the world you want to resist or reject is already here. Is that true? Every thought you want to reject, the reason you want to reject it, because it's already arisen. So the question is, as we engage with reality, what is our stance? Is it one of rejection, of resistance, of avoidance, of anger and fear and despair? These are all, the product of that. It's kind of the dark side of dealing with life. But there's another way, which he is saying, where you don't resist. You open to. Right? You're open. You're not closed. Right? You're open to everything. Why? Because everything is what it is. Everything that's happening is happening. I mean, I listen to myself, I'm just kind of babbling up here. But is that clear? I mean, so we get the resistance and the rejection out of the way so we can deal constructively with reality, external reality and internal reality. And all this energy, this psychic energy that's being used now to control and manipulate and resist and reject and gets caught up in anger and fear, and that's all wasted energy. And there's very little left over for wholesomeness, right? Which is really what the world needs. The world needs wholesome, healthy responses to its problems, right? The world needs people who are acting in the world from wisdom and compassion, and not from anger and fear and judgment. Right? Isn't that true? Yeah, don't reject sense pleasures. Now, he's not encouraging for those of you who are saying, meaning, oh, that's great. People go, I'm a little worried about that Buddhist thing about senses and sense pleasures, Okay. So, again, he is talking to, primarily in his day, monastics, or people who are kind of raised with that kind of relationship to kind of ordinary life, which is kind of our life. We're lay people, we're householders, that we live in the world of the senses, right? And so he's saying, don't reject them. He's not saying don't indulge them. Accept them that's ordinary, right? So he's not implying, that hedonism is the path of realization. But he's positing a middle way where, yeah, we can enjoy tastes, we can enjoy sights, we can enjoy sounds, we can enjoy positive sensual experiences. Yeah, it's all just part of life. There's no reason to reject it. And there's no reason to kind of raise it up as the purpose of life. That's what a hedonist does. But at the same time, it's to acknowledge that, the life of the body and the life of the senses, has pleasure. It also has pain, right? I mean, in our body, we have pleasurable sensations, and then we have unpleasant sensations. That's true too, right? We have, things that taste good and things that don't taste good. Sounds that are pleasant, sounds that are unpleasant, sights, etc. So he's saying, don't reject, because they are the water and fertilizer for experience and realization. Yeah, how as human beings do we enter the world? We enter the world through our senses, right? If we couldn't see, if we couldn't hear, if we couldn't smell, if we couldn't touch, right? It would be a very, disconnected kind of world. We'd all be trapped within our minds without any ability to connect to experience. We connect to experience through our five senses, right? So how can we reject that which allows us to connect with experience? And it's through our connection with experience that we really have this ability to really heal and transform and to live a meaningful life. So in that sense, our senses are wonderful vehicles. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling, and even thinking, right? The problem isn't thinking. The problem is that the quality of our thoughts is, what? What is the quality of many of our thoughts? What would you say the quality of our thoughts? People are not of the highest order. Thank you very much. Right. I like the way you put that. Not of the highest order. That could be. As I've said before, if any of us, if there were, and it's probably coming in technology, it's probably here already, but if somehow they could hook up a loudspeaker to our minds that everybody could hear our thoughts, we would be embarrassed, wouldn't we? We would. One thing we want to keep private is our thoughts, right? Why? Because they're, most of them are what? What? Not great. They're often petty. They're often incongruent with how we present ourselves to the world, or how we want to be seen, or how we really, And so, so there's certainly transformative work to be done. So we really get a mind that is wholesome and really supports us truly in how we want to show up in the world. But at the same time, we don't get there by manipulating. We get there by opening up to our thoughts as they are and just working with them in a more spacious, open, calm way rather than, okay. Don't reject sickness and suffering. Don't reject, I'll put the last two together. Don't reject sickness and suffering, since they are your spiritual friends. Don't reject enemies and obstructors, since they are inspiration for realizing your basic nature. Okay. Yeah, so most of us don't like suffering, right? If we had a choice, we go, yeah, I choose not to suffer. And most people choose to be healthy and not sick. Is that not true? Yeah. And yet, sickness of the body is natural to the body. Bodies get sick, right? It is the nature of the body to be sick from time to time. Doesn't mean we do our best to be healthy. It doesn't do our best to practice public hygiene and public health, to create environments for people in the world, but yet, even if you're, doing everything right? I'm sure there are many people here and doing everything right. You're eating all the right food and taking all the right vitamins and supplements and doing exercise, right? And yet, do you find you ever get sick? Yeah. So, sickness, suffering, remind us what? What? What do they remind us of? Impermanence, change. Suffering reminds us, because if we never got sick, you see, and if we didn't suffer, if things didn't turn south in many different directions in life, we could kind of cruise on, couldn't we? They're almost like some of those kind of novels. What are those novels like? Like Brave New World. I haven't read that in years. You know what I mean? Where they sort of like create a world, kind of eliminate. You what? Dystopia. Sort of like those worlds where kind of through control of the society and through the use of medications and drugs and other kinds of media things, everybody's kind of what? Nobody suffers, right? Nobody has to suffer anymore. Just take this pill. Just watch this movie. Just have this experience. You see, we could kind of drift in kind of a semi-conscious state, couldn't we? But sickness, illness, death wakes us up to the impermanent nature of this life, that we're only here for a short time, and that things can change in a moment. Health can turn to ill health. And when we get into a place of suffering, either in our own life or in the life of other people, that's a wake-up call. Oh, even though my life seems to be going good these days, look how much suffering is going on in other people or in the world. Oh, I need to attend to this, right? So illness and sickness and suffering are wake-up calls. They remind us that there is a more meaningful path in life than just staying healthy and, we have a society now where I think our culture is doing its best to what? To help people not suffer, right? That's why we have massive addictions, massive amount of people on psychotropic doses of legal medications to modulate their mood. People endlessly consuming electronic media, and right? Why are we doing all this with greater and greater intensity and frequency and dominance of our culture? Why? All in the pursuit of what? Never having to suffer. Right? Isn't that right? Never having to be bored. Never having to be present to ourselves. But suffering, suffering is not to be pursued. Right? The Buddhist path, actually the Buddhist path is about the ending of suffering, but in a deeper way. In a transformative way. So when our life enters the world of suffering, it's a reminder, right? It's a reminder of this fundamental condition in life that either I keep putting Band-Aids on and short-term solutions on, or I go right to the source of it, right? Which is what the Buddhist path is about. Asking questions, why do I suffer? In our society, we go, how can I immediately, short-term, without a lot of effort, get rid of this suffering? Oh, I got it. I'll go to the fridge, right? I'll turn on the computer. I'll turn on TV. I'll go get high. That's our response to even a touch of suffering, right? But there is another way. So he says, don't reject sickness and suffering. They are your spiritual friends. Yeah, let me just stop. I mean, this a lot of things have been said this morning, and I'm interested in your response. And again, for those of you who are new, I mean, you can, have a totally contrary opinion of what's been said today, or you could have questions about it, confusion about it. What does this actually mean in reality or your life? So let's talk for a few minutes. I'm open to anything. Yes.
I'd like to hear the last one about enemies and obstructors.
Oh. Well, I was going to say, but I wanted to process things a little bit. Yeah. Thank you. So, I mean, what do you think about all this? It's very contrary to the way many of us act and believe, and actually what we think a spiritual path is about. So, do you have any questions? Anything confusing? Anything? Yes.
I find that illness, you're ill, and you're fighting that illness. You're not healing. You're fighting. You just kind of have to accept this is what it is.
Yeah.
What's happening. But when you get into that little battle of, I'm going to fight this, you're actually doing the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to thought of saying, am I going to open myself up to this experience, to that experience, to the other experience? We may all be open to those experiences and just call them experiences, but we know inside which ones, well, I'm not going to put my hand in the flame because I'm going to get burned by that flame.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an experience that, okay, it's nice to know that that's what happens,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to be able to realize that it's causing me suffering. So
Yeah. No, that's good. Right. So, So that's, So Mauricio's comment or question was, to be open to experience, there also has to be a little bit of common sense here. Right. So, So the issue, to be open to experience is to be open to the reality that there's a fire in front of me. Now, if I'm not present to that, if I'm not open to that, if I'm in denial about that, then my capacity to respond in an intelligent, common sense way, may be contaminated. So to be open to reality doesn't mean we drop our common sense or our capacity to understand or our capacity to act intelligently and wisely and compassionately. You're absolutely right. Be open means what's my stance, you see. I'm not repressing, I'm not denying, I'm not interpreting, I'm just present. The house is on fire. This is not the time to take out the marshmallows. Right? I mean, this is, right? I mean, this isn't, hopefully, the intelligence and the common sense step in. Okay, so that's important. That's good. Yeah, and the first point you made, of course, is true. I mean, when you know that personally, if we have a physical sickness or an illness or a disease or whatever we have, we do that. We have it. And the question is, how can I work most skillfully, most helpfully to facilitate any healing that's capacity, and also to maintain the quality of my life as much as I can, right? That's where the energy should be. But many people, they put their energy in rejection and anger, disappointment, fear, again, which are all, kind of emotions that, and now, with people who are researching emotions, show that's actually kind of sabotaging your capacity to heal. It's not just benign, so that's good. Thank you. Any other questions about, think about this is, how do you practice this stuff? Yes, and then yes, and yes. Yes.
With regard to the I'll use the example of the sky and the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we relate to the clouds the way the sky does? Is that from like changing the way we think about it, or it slowly happens from
Yeah, it happens over years from meditating and understanding. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's deep. It's again creating. The question is, how do you do that? How do you create that? How do you create that sky-like mind that allows the clouds and the storm clouds just to pass through? Well, that's what meditation's about. At this point, our minds are focused on minutia. We're focused on what? What are we focused on all the time? Thoughts. Afflictive thoughts. We ruminate, right? We obsess back and over and over. So our mind only sees the clouds. In meditation, we learn how to see, if you think about thoughts, Blake, thoughts arise in the mind, right? Well, what does the mind look like? Check it out. Yes. Evelyn, you.
So you're having an experience that's sort of like the house is on fire.
Yeah.
The body is reacting with fear. Or
See, hold on. Yeah. Is the body reacting with fear? The body's having, let's say, a painful experience. Where's the fear coming from? What is your body really afraid of anything? Where's the fear coming from?
But what if you're in the middle of this experience, watching your breath, noticing that this experience is stressful?
No. You don't know any of that. You see, you're already set it up. Listen how you've set it up. You've already set it up. You've got to watch the breath because I'm about to go through something very stressful. Okay? Let's think, what can we think about? Let's think about a roller coaster, which I have not been on for years. But I'm thinking back when I was young, and I used to enjoy those things, okay? Now, let's say you get on a roller coaster, okay? And a roller coaster is, okay? Now, you can get on it with going, all right, I'm getting on a roller coaster. It's going to be nauseating and this and that. I better hold on really tight, get my hand grip, better really get my seat, and this is my strategy for surviving this. Okay? Okay. So that's one way of riding a roller coaster. I would say, is that a fun way of riding a roller coaster? All right. Now, who enjoys roller coasters? All right. What's the fun way of doing a roller coaster? Yeah, you let go. And you just, wow, you scream. Everybody's having a great time. They're screaming their heads off, right? Same roller coaster ride. You don't need a strategy. You need to be present to the experience. Okay? Damn it. That's okay. Okay. That was just an analogy. I really don't want to get into roller coasters. Yeah, this is called 11 Pieces of Important Advice Not to be Rejected, and his name was Gampopa, Gampopa. Yes. So that's good. So it's about 10 of, we probably should stop. Is that correct? So thank you, everyone. We will continue in future weeks.